Hello everybody and welcome to another top 10 board gaming video. Today I'm going to be revisiting something that I've done in the past, which is looking at the People's Choice Awards, so to speak, for the best solo board games. I did this last year and these particular choices are for 2022. Now I'm really excited for this. There were a lot of votes that went into it, and I do want to emphasize these are not my choices. I did put in my own personal votes, but the actual games that are in the top 10 of the total 200 are not necessarily my personal favorites. But that said, because I did this last year, and honestly there weren't too many changes, one thing that I'm going to get into is a little bit about what I think about the individual games as solo games, but as well as anything that might unseat them, because I think there's a couple of things that can come down the pipeline. That said, I'm really excited to get into it. As always, please let me know anything and everything in the comments. As far as in this case, what are your personal favorite solo games? Did you make the top 10? Did you get kicked out? What is the story there? Let me know anything and everything, but with that, we're going to get started with number 10. At number 10, we've got Ark Nova, the game that's all about building a zoo that all of the animals are happy with. So this is a game that was released in 2021, and it was on the solo board games list, but it was so new and so few people had it, it didn't get a lot of votes. But this time for 2022, it shot up over 1,100 spaces to make it into the top 10, which tells you it's got a really good solo mode. I actually personally have not played the solo version, but now I feel like I kind of have to. And incidentally, because this is a new addition to the top 10, and the only new addition to the top 10, I might say, Robinson Crusoe is the one that got kicked out. I personally think that it's kind of a bum deal because I really love the solo mode for Robinson Crusoe, but as I mentioned, I've not tried it with Ark Nova, so apparently it's really good, and I'm gonna have to try it at some point. But with that, Ark Nova is number 10. At number 9, we've got Eon's End, a game that literally didn't change at all. It was number 9 last year, and it is number 9 again this year. And once again, I still don't have it. I still have not really played it very much. I still have not certainly played it solo, but overall, I like the game. I like the aesthetic. I like the theme. I think that it's a cool twist on sci-fi horror and that sort of thing, which you don't see a huge amount in board games. You see it all the time in video games though. And honestly, I don't see any other games kind of unseating this or moving it around too much because of its relatively unique niche. So that said, at number 9, we've got Eon's End. At number 8, we've got Terraforming Mars. This is one that was on the top 10 last year, but in this case, it dropped a couple of spaces. And as to why that is, I can't really say. I know we did get a couple of new expansions for it. We got the Ares expansion. I'm not sure exactly when it was released, so maybe that had something to do with it and kind of messed up with the solo mode or something along those lines. I still find it to be a wonderful game, very compelling. I love the science aspect for it. It's still just a great game overall. I personally really like it. I've got most of the expansions for it, and it's a good solid game. It's a good solid solo play. Again, the science theme is great, and it's unique enough that, like Eon's End, I don't think it's going to be completely unseated, but it is an engine builder, so I can see the possibility of something coming after it. Regardless, Terraforming Mars is number 8. At number 7, we've got Lord of the Rings, the card game. This bumped up one spot from last year, and that said, it really is an awesome game. This is a living card game from Fantasy Flight, which means that in this particular case, you can get expansion packs that are identical. You build up a deck, and then you go and you do whatever it is. In this case, it is a cooperative game. So the idea is that you're playing as the good guys, the Fellowship, going against the bad guys of Isengard and all that kind of thing. The solo mode is wonderfully well done. I find it to be really awesome. I don't believe it had too many expansions. My guess is that the Rings of Power show on Amazon may have had something to do with Lord of the Rings games becoming more popular during 2022. That's my guess as to what could have bumped it up. Honestly, I have no idea though. Regardless, it's still a great game and came in at number 7. At number 6, we've got Big Daddy Gloomhaven, which fell down 2 spots in the brackets this year. And for me, I love RPGs, I love Gloomhaven, and if Jaws of the Lion had a solo play mode, I'm guessing that it could easily knock Gloomhaven off. And my guess in this case is that Frosthaven started coming out. And so with people now playing Frosthaven, which is bigger, better, stronger, faster, it's got replayability with the reusable stickers and all of that kind of stuff, I imagine that that might be why Gloomhaven didn't get quite as many votes as it did last time. But you never know. It could be just that people are kind of cooling off of it because, again, with this particular one, you can basically play it once and it's kind of ruined. Whereas with Frosthaven, you don't have that. So I'm thinking that we may see Frosthaven in the top 10 or top 15 for 2023. We'll just have to wait and see. Regardless, for the time being, Gloomhaven is 2022's number 6. At number 5, we've got Too Many Bones. This is another game that bumped up in the ranks by 2 spots in this particular case. And I've talked about it before. I absolutely adore this game. I love the way that you have character progression. I love the RPG elements inside of it. I love the story elements that you have inside of it. It's so well done. It's so unique. It's just great. And my guess is that in this particular case, we've got more voters who are actually able to play it because it's been really, really tough to get on the secondary market. And I know there's at least been some retail for Too Many Bones, in addition to, of course, getting some new expansions and stuff like that, reigniting some of the interest in the game. But all in all, it's absolutely wonderful. I love it with people. I love it solo. It's a great game, and honestly, for me, I think it could even potentially be a little bit higher. But for the time being, for 2022, Too Many Bones is number 5. At number 5, we've got the Arkham Horror card game, which bumped itself up by 1 spot this year compared to last. And again, this is another living card game, courtesy of Fantasy Flight, just like the Lord of the Rings card game, but a little bit better. And you know, I never like to turn down a chance to say mythos, or however you pronounce it, for Lovecraftian stuff. Now, what I'm thinking for this particular one is that we had a lot of materials for games related to like Cthulhu Death May Die, as well as we had the Oceans Deep expansion or mythological creatures expansion, which included Cthulhu and a few other things that have gone kind of this eldritch path that may have re-sparked and reignited some interest in the Arkham Horror game line, not to mention having the release of Arkham Horror version 3. Even though it was a little bit longer ago, the card game does a nice job of capturing that feel without being overwhelming. So I'm guessing that might be why we got a little bit of a bump up. And again, with something relatively unique in the horror genre, I don't think that this is going to be going anywhere anytime soon. So Arkham Horror, the card game, is number 4. Yes, number 4. At number 3, we've got Marvel Champions. So this is one that stayed in the exact same spot as last year, and frankly is awesome. I really enjoy it. I've got a ton of it. I actually custom built my own little box here. Well, custom built, quote unquote. It's a pre-assembled thing, but that's neither here nor there. The point is that the vinyls were done on a Cricut in my house. So that said, the idea of this particular game is that you pick a hero and then you go against whatever particular villain. We have a lot of expansions for it. This is another living card game. And we see a lot of these on this particular list. We've got Arkham, we've got Marvel, and we've got Lord of the Rings. So we're seeing a bit of a pattern here. Now, my guess, at least as far as why this is such a consistent game that has been on the player's choice for a good while, is because of the Marvel movies and TV shows. They have had some very, very good ones throughout the years, and that includes 2022, although I think there's an argument to be made that it's kind of died down a little bit with the hype, but at the same time, people are always going to love Marvel. They're always going to love the superheroes. And on top of that, Fantasy Flight is probably always going to be coming out for more expansions for it. So that said, Marvel Champions is number 3. At number 2 is once again the robbery that is Mage Knight, being only number 2. So this has happened for a few years, and it's because of the same game that has been at number 1. But that said, I am very excited because I do not see Mage Knight being knocked off the top 10 anytime soon. It's constantly on top solo playlists. It's constantly up there with a lot of other things, and it's been around for years now. I still don't have expansions for it. I don't feel like it needs it for whether it's solo or cooperative play or competitive play. And I think that's one of the reasons why this game has really stood the test of time in terms of not only this particular concept of the people's choice, but also just as a game in general. But for this particular list, I think the really big thing is the versatility, where you can adjust the difficulty settings, and very few games do that well. This game does it really nicely. It does it in a very elegant way that I think works amazingly. And so for all of that, I don't think it's ever going to be going anywhere as long as these people's choice solo games voting keeps going. I'm happy for that because it is my personal favorite solo game. But that said, Mage Knight came out at number 2. At number 1, we've got Spirit Island. For anybody curious, there's something slightly different about this video from last year's, and that is, I have it now. I did not have it before, and so now I can say I've actually played the solo mode on Spirit Island, and I have to admit, it is awesome. This is the board game equivalent of "Get off my lawn, you dang kids!" But you're doing it as one of the elemental spirits of an island, so it's probably a little bit more aggressive than that. But at the same time, conceptually, the game is very well executed. The mechanics for the solo mode versus the cooperative mode are very well balanced and very well sort of reintegrated and reimagined ever so slightly to make it work well as a solo mode. I think that it is very good. I think that it's awesome. I don't know that I would go so far as to say that it deserves to stay at number 1, because I still personally like Mage Knight more, but I can see why so many people vote Spirit Island in at number 1. And honestly, from my relatively limited experience, I don't see anything being able to kick this off anytime soon, but we'll just have to see what time tells us. So that said, the number 1 People's Choice Solo Board Game Award for 2022 is, again, Spirit Island. Well, everybody, that's going to be it for me. I hope that you enjoyed this brief overview of the top 10 People's Choice solo board games for 2022. As I mentioned before, I do want to emphasize, I didn't choose these. This is not my personal list. You can take a look at the link in the description below so that you can see the top 200 of them. Just remember that these were voted on by the Board Game Geek community. And while I did cast my vote, that doesn't mean that my personal choices made the spots that they were in. That said, as I mentioned before, I can see a few of these getting knocked down. I can see a few of them that were in like the top 20 bumping up a little bit. We saw a lot of pretty big jumps. I mean, Arc Nova went up by 1,100. There were a couple, I think Project Gaia went up by 20 or 23 spots and all of that sort of thing. In addition, this year's Spiel des Jahres, Cascadia, is a pretty good solo game. I don't know that it's going to be able to make the top 10, but you never know. And of course, there's a lot of other games that are coming out. I still think that Frosthaven is at least going to make it really high this year in 2023. It might knock Gloomhaven down. I think people are still going to enjoy Gloomhaven though. Not to the extent that it's completely gone, but it may kick something else off. So that said, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Of course, if you haven't done so already, please take a look at my various social media pages where you can interact with myself and my channel in a bunch of fun ways. And let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know anything and everything, whether your personal favorite solo game made it or didn't make it, or whatever it happens to be. You know I love to hear it all. One last note from me personally on that aspect is I'm a little bit disappointed because none of the games that are in the top 10 are solo exclusive. None of them are solitaire games. And the thing is that this is one of the issues I have with these kind of voting based awards is you never know if it's simply boiling down to a popularity contest versus actual gameplay and things of that nature. Because there are great games out there like The Void that are wonderful solo games because they are solo games. That is all they are. But you don't see those in the really relatively even top spots of like 50 to 1. Not only that, it would be great if more of the community voted, but that's beside the point. It's a fun thing to see. It's a fun thing to do. And once again, thank you so much for watching. Hope that you enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time.